So I see that a lot of people have joined in. I would like to welcome everyone on behalf of AMP. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am Humaira Kabir, Operations Manager at AMP USA. Along with me, we have Mr. Mohammad Shahinshah Ansari, the President of AMP USA from Chicago. I would like to introduce you all to the speaker of the day, Mr. Shah Siddiqui, who is the CEO of Reed Academy, who will be taking a live session today. We also have Mr. Saeed, Director Technology at Swift e-learning services with us. I request him to talk for 2 minutes before we start for the day. Thank you.
Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. This is Saeed here, and welcome all again. For the phase 2 of the soft skills webinar series that we have planned. And after the tremendous success of phase 1, we are here one more time, to talk about phase 2. So, okay, we have, I would be dealing with the learning management system. After every session, you can access the e-learning program of the topic that is being discussed today, and also there will be an assessment right after that e-learning program. And you would be at the end of this webinar series, you would also be getting a certificate that you can download. But there are certain conditions around it that you have to attend the maximum number of sessions, and also you have to pass the assessment. So that assessment will be there in the learning management system, and that learning management system, the link would be provided to you, right after this webinar. Okay, so those who are attending, after phase 1, I mean, those who have already attended the phase 1, it is the same link. And for those who are attending this series for the first time, okay, you can access it. There's a simple sign up process, and you just have to enroll, and then you can get started. And I would be here for any technical queries that you have, once we go forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Saeed Bhai. I will quickly run a presentation for you all. So AMP stands for Association of Muslims Professionals. AMP is registered in India and USA as a non-profit organization. Recently, AMP got registered in Australia, UK and Australia as well. It has completed 12 years of serving our community in various fields such as education, employment, and empowerment. AMP has a vision to positively impact life for 10 million people by 2030. It's our vision. And to empower Muslims for the greater benefit of the society in general and nation as a whole is AMP's mission. AMP's vision is to be a model Muslim community which is advanced in education, socially progressive, culturally vibrant, politically influential, and economically dynamic. So what AMP has achieved in these 12 years is right in front of you. We got school development programs, which we call SDPs. Here we conduct lectures and seminars in schools. We got Employment Assistance Cell, that is EAC. Here we organize job fairs and job drives. By scholarships and self-employment, we aim to transform lives by this project. AMP Resource Center, where we got more than 600 plus counselors who help students in career guidance and counseling. We also do awards and partnerships with different companies and training partnerships. Besides the achievement, AMP's present today is as follows. On ground presence, AMP has more than 100 plus active chapters. We are present in 25 states and 16 countries with 6,000 plus active members. We also got our online presence where we got 1,25,000 professionals connected to us as members and volunteers. If you are willing to be a part of AMP, you can always visit www.ampindia.org/joinamp. Well, without wasting our important time, I would like our speaker to take over the session. Or before, hello? Yeah, before handling to our speaker, I would quickly tell you all about today's session's format. The speaker, Mr. Shah Siddiqui Saab, will cover the topic in 1 hour and 15 minutes. Then we will have a question and answer session where we'll be taking your questions one by one. If you have any questions uh, related to the topic, you may ask your questions using Zoom's question and answer section underneath your Zoom application window. Utilize your time by carefully listening to the speaker and then ask your questions if there is any. We will be raising, no, okay. So after the question answer, the speaker, Mr. Shahza will conclude the session, and then I'll ask Saeed Bhai to take over for a couple of minutes again. So let us all take advantage of this opportunity to learn from an expert today. Over to you, Sir Shahza. Thank you.
All right. Greetings all. This is your instructor, Shah Siddiqui. And on behalf of AMP, our learning, our organizer, as well as Swift, our learning partner, I welcome you all to this second phase of the web series or the webinar, starting with today's session on English conversation and business writing. I hope everyone is doing well and you can hear me well, as well as the current crisis we are in, unprecedented times. I hope everyone's taking the required, and I do appreciate your coming in today to attend this session, logging in at this time. I'm thinking a bit late, depending on wherever you are, to this session. And once again, I welcome you all. As I have, as you may be aware, the topic for the day is English conversation. Sounds like a very normal topic, very standard topic, as well as connected with the writing relating to the business. So to give you a brief on the topic, it's actually in English conversation, and I have a specific criteria here, or you can call it a specific strategy when it comes to speaking English, and especially when it comes to business English, which is, a whole different area from business writing. So we have two major, diversified areas that we would talk about today. And we will do our best to have it presented in a concise manner, depending on the time we have. Although these topics are never ending, our topics are very broadly classified, very broadly defined, and very difficult to bring it within a window. So I hope I'm clear here with the topic English conversation, which could mean anything, but we will try to take a specific course in here and connect it with our writing for today. Before I share the slides, I just want to give you, a bit on the approach. For those of you who have attended the previous sessions on topics, simple soft skills topics such as time and stress management, emotional intelligence, you may have seen or you may have noticed an approach that we had, okay? So we will stick to the approach. That will be our strategy, going forward, which is more of a systems approach, not related to computer systems, as I have mentioned to you. So this would be more of a holistic approach. This would be more of an approach where we will try to bring in every possible aspect of the business, okay? So it would be a big window that we would be opening, okay? And it will be a big, perspective that we would take. Although it would all depend on how, what your take is when it comes to the perspective. So here, with our conversation aspect, I do have to say that I'm going to start out with, English conversation or English speaking skills, at the highest level, which where I mean English to be perfect, okay, or to be near native. And this would be the purpose of our approach today, where you would have to achieve levels relating to near native English speakers. This is a course that you will take that will begin today and will end depending on your efforts, the time and effort that you put in. So here, what I mean is we would like to take a look at how or where we stand on our English speaking skills today, and what do we have to do to bring it to the near perfect level, okay, or the near native level. And this might be an approach, but since this webinar is in English, and since you all have been with me in the last session, and I'm sure you all are using English as, you know, more than a second language. Most of you, I believe, are, you know, from the subcontinent. And then a common mistake that people look at, people from different countries, is, you know, how well they speak English, or how come they speak so well. So this is a common um, opinion of many people, and we'll try to also look into that. But in other words, what I mean, what I plan to achieve today is to give you an understanding about how your English should be near perfect. I hope this is clear. And how you should really try to speak like a native speaker, or be at least a near native speaker. This will be our goal. We will touch on some grammar topics, which is a requirement, but I wouldn't worry too much about it, because they say grammar helps you learn the language. But what if you already know the language? What if you already speak the language? How would grammar help you? Well, you can go back and look into grammar, which might help or might confuse you, okay? But that's not get these tools or these nuts and bolts towards our progression to near perfect English. Any possible way you can is what I would like for you all to understand and take your course in getting to the perfect level of English. And then that follows the business writing aspect. So normally in an English course, I would interact with you all, and I would have an idea where my audience is at. Okay. In most cases, they are usually very close to speaking well as an impression that you all will write well. But in this case, this is a webinar series. And of course, we are thankful for making this happen during these times, during these tough times. And I once again, appreciate you all coming in. So without the assessment that I'm usually having at the beginning of the session, I would move on, hoping that you all are on the same page, keeping up with my pace, as well as getting a grip on what the challenges are ahead, or what the course of action should be, starting from after this 2-day session on English speaking ends. Your journey will begin. So we'll try to cover and touch and then present everything that you possibly have to do to get to that level. And the level that I'm talking to here is having a near perfect English skills. This includes grammar, if you can. And this also includes correct pronunciations, okay? The phonics. So you would also have to work on the way how the word is correctly pronounced in a different, in the right way, in the specific pronunciation that we're picking on. So we'll have to start looking the macro aspect by picking up on some countries that you would be interested in who are native English speakers, or where people are native English speakers. So as a good example, you would either pick up the UK area, the United Kingdoms, or the England, which is the English house, or the United States, to make it simple. So either of these two accents you would pick as your course of journey, and during your lifetime of journey. The entire effort that you'll be putting in your entire lifetime would be based on the pronunciation. So you would like to have a fancy for either English or an American English, okay? And with that, you would pick on the words that you would be learning to adapt and get to that near perfect level. So this would be our course of action. And we'll try to look into slides, well, lots of slides I have on both conversation as well as the writing aspect. But we'll try to do our best. So I'm going to try to give you a background on how, what the approach is. You would start out with picking up a pronunciation, and then you would start out with trying to grasp those words. And then in between, you will have your grammar that you can use. But I wouldn't want you all to be held back because of the grammar, which is sort of a technical aspect of the language. But then you can go on slow. And then the reason why I'm talking, or I'm keeping the levels higher, is because I'm usually disappointed among the people that I meet from different areas of the world who either take English as something that they want to do, or who take English as something that they do it well, or they have their own reasons. Now you can question, since I'm being so much um, into English, you can as well question as to why just English, okay? But it has been proven that there are other international languages. English is spoken by maybe 1/4 or close to you know about 1/3 of the entire world population, comprising of 6 billion or whatever. But however, English has gained momentum, okay? It is more in fashion. And countries like Japan, okay, are also trying to adopt English, although they have their own ways of, um, not giving up on their own language. Japan is a leader, world leader in technology. So is China. But Japan has introduced English at its own level in its own industries. So for example, if you look at Honda, why would you think that Honda employees should be speaking English? It won't make sense, but it is. And we'll try to touch on some cases if we get a chance during the course. So, there is this area where people would not like to speak English. So if you are into, say, for example, somewhere in Spain or Austria, say Barcelona, Vienna, if you are there as a tourist and you would like to converse, you would start out with English, obviously. Okay, so depending on where you are from. But then the first question you would ask is for this certain community is if you speak English. Don't just start English, but you would have to ask them if they would be willing to speak English. So that's how it is. They would say that, well, I speak English and I can answer you. But if you just start on with English, it would not be proper. So there is this question as why just English, okay? But I'm thinking the audience that I have today are mostly from the, subcontinent and from South Asia. So I have a reason for you to be able to speak near perfect English, and not a reason for you to speak any less English, okay? So if you are, for example, from India, or Nigeria, two colonies I'm taking as an example here, which were under the colonial power of the Great Britain, you have no reason not to speak English. And especially from India, you have no reason not to speak good English. And we'll look into it why, okay? So before getting carried away, I just want to get back to the subject and, introduce the concept that we have to stick to English, okay? There's no other language that's going to help you, because this is about employability, this is about business prospects, this is about finding a job in the market, and this is about your own livelihood. So I think you have to be obsessed with learning English skills. You have to be obsessed with having very, very, proper writing skills. And nothing else is important. No other language is important when it comes to your career or as you embark on your career. So take it as an obsession, take it as whatever you can to get to this level. And let's not bring our technical skills into the course as a barrier. Why? Because technical skills are fine, but if you can present your technical skills, not just in a soft manner, but in a English speaking pattern, then your technical skills are held back. I'm not going to say it's no good. It will held back. It won't let you climb. So if you aspire to become the CEO of a company, then all you need to have is the talking skills. If you look at the videos of certain CEOs, you will very easily know that all they do is talk. So this is how you would connect yourself with English, okay? And then as an example, as a case in focus, look at Microsoft or even Google. Their CEOs wouldn't have been the CEOs unless they had good English speaking skills, right? So that's how much you have to work on. And then that's how much you have to bring up your English speaking skills. So for now, I want you all to drop everything and then just be focused, or you be obsessed with grabbing these tools, these little tactics, or these tips that I'm willing to give you to why you should think that your English should be near perfect, or near native, which means that it has to be, it has to be standing out. It has to be, out there, and it has to be having the grip. So I hope I have emphasized enough on why English is important and how you should get to that level and how you should take it as a weakness if you don't speak well, or if you don't write well. And it's not impossible to improve it. It's very, very possible to improve it. And you would start out with reading. Okay, the first aspect that I will bring to you is to cultivate the lifelong habit of reading. Okay, look at your 15-minute, look at your time tools, time management skills, where you had the power of 15. So whatever time you have to read. So with that, I'm going to get to the slides and we'll start out. I think I need the permission to share the screen.
You should be able to, Shah Saab. Let me make you host.
Okay.
Just a moment. Yeah, can you try again now?
Yeah. I got the screen.
Thank you.
All right. That's our first slide for today. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is my voice clear?
Yes, sir. You
Okay.
can go ahead. Yes.
All right. So we'll start out. The title is conversation. Okay. You can call it communication. Okay. And business writing. So we have two different animals here, conversation and writing. And we'll get to it if we can get to it in the best possible manner. All right, take a look at this slide. As you can read it, informal speaking is conversation, and not to mention how many mistakes we do and how improper we speak and how incorrect the language wordings are, or how incorrectly you word the language. How would you guess? How would you know about, your conversation in English? We'll look at the tools that we have, and then you would always need a partner, in understanding the language. So you would know what level you are at and what mistakes you're doing. So as opposed to conversational English, which is an area that you have to work on, let's move a step ahead and look at what the business aspect of English is. So this is at an even higher level and an expert level. Okay, and you are using your basic English language, but there are terms that you have to throw in for business. These terms are technical terms. These terms are your technical skills that you already have from your business background, from your business degrees that you hold. However, these technical terms are the business terms that you have in an enhanced manner, okay? And your vocabulary towards the usage of these terminologies, your expanded vocabulary, will get you into a business conversation in English, okay? And which will let us get into a strategic aspect of your conversation. So if you all remember, in the past, I have said that even WhatsApp message that you write would have to be a strategic message. So this word is very, very, broad, very, very strong, and you have to get to this level. So I'm saying a lot from this side. From this slide, you can get a lot where you have to get to it. A strategic business conversation is what will get to getting into a business aspect of your deal. And it's only a strategic business conversation that will get you into closing the transaction. So this is the ultimate goal, to hold a strategic business conversation. And you may have noticed this, at public places where you may have seen having, overhearing business conversations. At hotels, at the lobbies or the airports, you will run into these, conversations. So this is where you stand out, and a listener and an observer will know that, okay, there's a business conversation going on. And what is the trick here to get it, highlighted as a business conversation? The terms that you use, the terminologies that you use. So you're building on business terms and terminologies, okay, a strong vocabulary in the aspect of business. This is once again by reading. And having this in your perfect English conversation is what makes you, hold a strategic business conversation. This is, based on a lot of work from you, depending on where you are at. If you are at a low level, then, you would have to follow the steps and get to that level. This is more important than your technical skills, is how I would let you know. But if English is your second language, for those of you who are very, very at an early stage of learning English, which I doubt, because most of you have, studied in English. But if you haven't studied, if you haven't had formal English education from your primary school, then you are really, truly using English as an ESL, which will have a different course that we will try to cover, or at least introduce to in this session. All right, so that was about the first slide, and I'm gonna get you to the next slide now. So I said, why English? Well, first of all, we have to stick to one business language, okay? Even if English has not gained popularity, you would stick to a language that you are familiar with. And I'm guessing the audience that I have today are all English speaking, audience, or who all come from, So let's not worry about what the Europeans would think, okay, or what the Africans, from the continent of Africa will think, or how Europe would take, English as a business language, okay? But I think there's a time that English is now having a global presence, so we don't have to worry much about it, okay? In fact, this slide don't make sense here because we already have our, series in English. Career, internet will get you into top schools in the world, or at least in North America. More entertaining, okay? I'm sure you can, build on this point. English makes your life more entertaining. The biggest example is Hollywood, okay? We all know Hollywood is not just more entertaining, but, more money making for them. So it's more of a requirement. And if you don't understand English, you lose on that. Is that entertainment? Not really, okay? There's no movie, that is made in Hollywood is not just as equally educating as entertaining. I'm sure you all will agree to it. So there was never a Hollywood movie that I watched and I didn't learn nothing, okay? So you can decide which way to go, Hollywood versus Bollywood. And then, like I said, drop everything. You can drop everything, and watching movies shouldn't be that difficult, an English movie. And especially there are some movies that I could recommend, or certain types of movies that always help you learn, not just about the facts of life, the business, the transactions, the operation, but also the language, okay? One movie that I particularly, one filmmaker, if I can recall, Tarantino, I'm sure you all know him. His movies are an asset to your English speaking skills. It helps you a lot. Well, that's just my way of explaining it, but many reasons. And companies like Airbus, okay, the German aircraft manufacturer, and so far, they all have adopted English, okay. Why did they do it? They have their own reasons. Although they don't like to, and if I say that Airbus, or Nokia or Sony is adopting English and encouraging their employees to speak English, that's only a half truth, okay? Because they would never give up their behind the screen behind the screen are their blueprints in any language but their own. However, from the front end, they need to source talent from all over the world, for which they have to portray an English platform, which they do. All right, so that's about why it's important. We already agree to it, but there are more ways of looking into it as to how you would adopt it. Okay. Sometimes when you have an international language, as your first language, it helps with your English. Some people have English, as their first language, as a second language, but they already speak near perfect English because they already speak French as their first language, for example, and then Italian, for example, and German. But those are specific areas that I wouldn't worry about. All right, fast check, take a look at this. And I have highlighted here, read the slide, and I have highlighted here, India and Nigeria. Okay, some facts. I'm guessing most of you are from India, so I think I can talk a little bit about it, and the difference between India and Nigeria. I don't think anybody is from Nigeria. You also run into a lot of English videos from Nigeria, but you see how specific or how different their accent is, okay? But they speak good English. India, of course, the credit goes to the British rule. Well, you have to realize that when the Indians drove the British out, they didn't drive their language away, they adopted to it. So our thinkers, our leaders of the time, and our visionaries, did not let English go. So that gives me a reason to say that why your English is so poor, or why your English is not near perfect, or why the English is not like those Britishers. Of course, we didn't get exposed to so many of those because they were gone by the time you were in. But English stayed put. English stayed back. And we have in our system English. Our legal system is all English. So if you see a judgment written by a judge, you'll see how good the English is, how perfect the English language is. And so should be the case of all these business leaders and these business icons. So if you are an Indian and if you're speaking anything less than perfect English, then it's a big problem. Then it's something that you have to work on. There is no reason for you not to speak good English, especially from India. And if you have had, a different language in your elementary school, then you have to start out as a second language, okay? But it's a loss. And no body in India will encourage English. All they know the benefits of English. So you would have to start out this movement where you would have to not just learn English, but make others learn English and then get to the level that we're talking about. Okay, so that was a check. What is near native speaking? Okay, when you want to have a good school to attend, or when you would like to have, a good school, where you can have a good elementary education. And if it's an English medium, you would like to know what the teachers are like if they speak good English. So same way, there is this area of having native speaking, system or English like a native. So this would be the ultimate way of learning English. So what is it is on the slide. Take a look at it. It may be difficult, but not impossible. But that should be your goal. And of course, you'd have to put in some hard effort. We would start out our journey with reading. And you would have to start perfecting your reading skills. Say if you're not a reader, which most of you I run into are, they would like now with the new stuff, not to read, though they would like to watch, they would like to listen. That's fine. But reading, is something that you cannot. There are other benefits of reading. There are psychological, neurological, area that we may have talked in the past. But you really have to start putting in time to, first of all, read and then perfect your reading skills. And this is a long journey till you get to a fluent level or a fluency. When you read your first book, it may have been difficult, but if you may be reading about one book a month, okay, like 10 books, 12 books a year. But once you start reading one book a week, you will see how fast your reading skills are adapting to the language. And you will notice after reading maybe 100 books how well you can write. And you will see how well your vocabulary have built on. And you will also see, how fluency is there connecting words. So you will start out with reading, and you would have to build on it and perfect your reading skill. Read as much as possible. So this is a new task that you have starting today, that there is no reason for you not to do it, even though you have a fluency, even though you may be able to speak well and converse well. All right, I hope this slide is clear. I'm not getting a feedback, but I'm gonna wait for your question. Some tricks to help you speak English like a native, okay? Depending on where your levels are, I'm getting you to at the highest level. So, and this should be your target, this should be your goal. And this is a lifelong goal, a lifelong habit of perfecting your reading skills, learning grammar, okay? And the tips that I have for you is different English accents, okay? So you pick one without getting confused. You'll see lots and lots of videos about different accents. And it's a skill. If you have a certain accent, it's a skill. You are known, for what you say, and you are seen as where you are from your accent. So different ways of looking at it, but you pick on one accent, whatever comes your way. If you plan, to go abroad, say Europe or England, and then you are most likely going to learn everything that I would plan to show today in a more hands-on way. And if you stay there for a few years, of course, you will get it. But if you are working hard, and if you are working, spending time familiarizing yourself with the accent, then you would still get it without even traveling to that country. But once you arrive, in the land of the language, then there are other things that follow, like idioms, slang, and the flow. But of course, you would have to be having the opportunity to go there and learn. But one way of learning is, especially a new language, is by living in the land where the language is spoken. So pick up an accent, whichever you want. There are not many choices, okay, for us. And the best way to simplify it is either have a British accent or the American accent. Try to imitate by watching, listening, and you'll get a lot of words from videos and from movies. Learn the flow of the language. Flow refers to not just the speed, but it's how you join certain words and how you omit certain words and how, you speak fast. Again, not with the speed, but by connecting certain speeches, by connecting some parts of speeches. So that would be the flow, okay? And this is also by learning, by watching, by listening. For example, if you're saying it's I am, right? So this is about the flow. There are lots of examples, that you can find on the internet. Slang, it's once again by listening, by following, or by living, okay? So if you happen to go to the United States as a student, okay, you will see the first word that you will learn there is what's up. So this is once again a slang, and it goes on from there. English idioms is also due to exposure. And then if I'm telling you all to stay put, what does it mean? It means you have to stay where you are. If I'm telling you to sit tight, what does it mean? It doesn't mean that you would have to be sitting without moving, but it means that patience. So up in the air, okay, are all different idioms that you would get to it when you get to it. But your English language is not perfect unless you pick on an accent, okay? And then pick on the pronunciations of the word, because if you're pronouncing it wrong, then it's wrong. But if there is an area that you live on, and if that's how people pronounce that, you can go with the flow. But you're living in a land where there are people, you know, with a certain pronunciation that you would have to work on that. And then slang and idioms comes with practice as you spend time. All right, for those of you who don't fit into the box that I was just talking about, and if you really think that English is your second language, okay, well, most of you are not native speakers, so your English or any other language that you speak are not your first languages. So English is your second language, but there are ways of looking at it. Okay, if you consider English as your second language, you will never prosper, you will never speak. But then, especially if you're coming from a country where English is, you know, almost official, then you can't really say that English is my second language, although you can live by speaking poor English. But it's a shame, you know, to come from a country like India and not speak good English and use ESL as a reason. So this is not, you know, the way to go. And this will have serious setbacks. This will hinder your career path, okay, as opposed to giving you a jump start. So this is your time now, wherever you are, at whatever level you are, either you are in the middle of your career or you are about to embark, jump into it, or maybe change an industry. This would be one skill that you would have to work on. And this is a lifelong journey. So if you think that your English is a second language, a real second language that you would have to start out from the beginning, then there are ways of working on it, okay? Not to be discouraged, but this is the same journey that you would have to take. And I have met people, you know, who had no English and had everything that they need to communicate within a matter of years. So it's just a matter of time. So you would work out, you know, with somebody like a guide or a teacher, have somebody assigned, you know, and get on internet, join those forums, classes, okay, pick up the topics, the books that you need, you know, the dictionaries, okay, and then whatnot. So it's not really, if you go join a university, you know, you might be asked to learn a language, okay, or it might be a requirement depending on the area you're in. So if in humanity, you need to have one language. So if you are taking, for example, German, I've seen people get to German, you know, with the use of dictionary and translate and, you know, communicate within 2 years. So that's ESL, but we're not talking about ESL. We're talking about, you know, English communication, as we all have, you know, English in our system. So it's somewhere in between, but you can't really call or use ESL as a you know, as a reason not to speak good English. So that's about the approach, language acquisition. If you all think that acquiring a language is difficult, then you're wrong. It's very simple, it's standard. And then to speak near native language, as you all know, you know, an individual would have to start learning the language, you know, when he is or under the age of 9, they say 8 or 9. So if you are, then you get on to that, you know, native talent, native skills. But if you're anywhere beyond that, you know, you may have a little difficulty. You know, it all, you know, based on, you know, your physiology. However, the more time you spend at whatever age you start learning, you know, the better it will be, the easier it will be. Because we all have our, you know, centers in the brain. So there is one center known as the speech center in the brain, and that will take care of your language learning abilities. So it's not for us to worry about it, but it's for our brain to take care of it. Once you get to that aspect, you know, the brain will start recording. It might take more time for you to memorize things now at this age as opposed to at an earlier age or whatever age you're in. And it might take up some time to have these new terms and terminologies, you know, embedded in your brain. But it's the work of a brain, and you have your own, you know, center in the brain that is dedicated to speech and learning. All right, and the psychology of speaking English. This is very important. If you are thinking that it's difficult, or if your ability, to speak good English is imparted, then it is for you to know that this is more of a psychological issue, not a linguistic. And then you would have to come out of the fear. When we talk about psychology, we talked about stress management, how those certain, hormones, adrenals are into the picture. So you just have to come out of it and then understand that this is a psychological, not a linguistic. The human can operate well, experiencing high levels of anxiety. We talked about this, okay? The physiological aspect of it, the nature and how to handle it. We talked about how to improve our diet and our physical activity, okay, to lower the stress. And this is once again going to help you with your speaking skills. In fact, I have heard improving on your speaking skills, whichever way you can, in a short term or a long term manner, has always been very enjoyable. Okay, it depends on how you look at it. So if you decide on speaking English only at home, with your family, with your friends, and with any commoner or even a person who would have no idea, then this is your way of enjoying learning English, and you can do it. So if you look at this last one, what I said may not make sense, it might be difficult. I have heard, my other students say that, oh, it's very difficult to speak English at home. No, it should be the easiest. And by that, you are not just helping your own self, but you're helping family members too. If you think that English is a language to be, perfected. And then the last line, if you look at the slide, the failure to speak a new language for the fear of making mistakes. I hope this sounds familiar. This is actual fear, okay? So it depends on how long you want to learn or go on learning. If you wish to get out of it in 6 months, then you would drop everything and speak nothing but English starting today. Can you do it? I'll let you guys decide. All right, so that was a brief on, the approach that I recommend to get a grip on perfecting your English language skills, okay? So the point here is to have a real perfect English language conversation and a near native, accent or near native skills. And this would be your goal. Other than that, anything else that you would like to do, will not be at par, would not be, would not take the time, and the efforts that I'm talking about. All right, so let's take a look at working with words, okay? What does English language comprise of? English words, okay? And what does business conversation comprise of? Business terms. So if you know the terminology, you can teach the language, or you can initiate any conversation. So the building blocks of any writing, whether business or social, are words. If you don't have the words, then you don't speak. And if you have the words, and if you don't have the ability to speak, then it's an issue with flow that you have to work on. And then if you have the words, and if you have the flows, but you're not near native, then you're missing on the idioms and the slang and the connections and the other tricks. So this is how it works. You have to work on all different aspects of, the language. That includes, the grammar, and then the specifics relating to a certain accent that you are planning to pick on. So to keep it simple, start with, one accent, as I have mentioned. So let's look at some words, grammar issues in writing, and how to have these learnable tricks handy for us. I can give you a few examples because there's lots and lots of, words that you have to work on. But anytime you have a doubt, it's very easy to check the word out in the dictionary, an online dictionary. So effect versus effect, this is a common mistake. Okay. And then if you see effect and effect, you know, there is how an economy will affect your life and how there is a ripple effect. So try to use, you know, many words relating to the same, having the same difficulty, clarified using a dictionary, using, you know, the best way you can. Anytime you write a word or anytime you're writing a letter, having some words, always have it word process so you can check it out before. Check it out not just to avoid mistakes, but for your own learning. So this is one example that I gave. And then we will take a quick look at some grammatical topics. You know, grammar, parts of speeches we have been learning. Okay, I'm not going to worry about a noun and pronoun here. Okay, but there are some verbs, okay, differently stated, because if you make that mistake, you know, your English is not proper. So there are singular verbs and plural verbs. Plural verbs always ends with an S. Okay. However, there are certain words that do not have an S. It's different. So for example, hair. Okay. What is the plural for your hair? You know, it's not hairs, right? And for man, it's not mans, it's men. So it goes on. And then you have to learn these specific, you know, singular and plural verbs that have sometimes, you know, a different, you know, pronunciation or different spelling. So there is no S. So if you work out and do some research, there will not be more than maybe 50 verbs, plural verbs that have a different, you know, a different way of saying it. And if you can get on it and have a grip on it and have it in your pocket on your cheat sheet or your writing journal that I have talked about, then your chances of making that incorrect statement is nullified. It's very, very easy. It might be 50 verbs, or you can start out with 50 verbs. Okay. So that's subject-verb agreement. Verb tenses. Okay, this gets a little complicated, because we are only familiar with, or we would like to deal with the present, the past, and the future, right? But we don't want to talk about the perfect tense, the past perfect tense, and the future perfect tense. So there are not 3 tenses, but there are 6 tenses, remember. So we start out with past, present, and future, which is very easy. And then there is a perfect tense, then there is a past perfect tense, and then there is a future perfect tense. Past is something that somebody has been holding on to something in the past, okay? And there is something that he's holding now in the past. Past is being held up now, which is past perfect. And then something that he will also hold in the future, that will have in the future, in fact, would be future perfect. Now, this may sound confusing, but if you already know how to speak, you know, a future perfect sentence or a past perfect sentence, then you don't have to worry about it. Because we're not going to be testing you. Nobody's testing you on the definition of a past perfect tense. Unless you are a grammar teacher, you would be testing your students. So we just speak as we speak. But when it gets to improving, you know, we need to work on these, you know, tenses and some learning, okay? So future perfect, possess, word is possess. Possessive is another word, as a, okay? And possessiveness and possesses. So it's very difficult to say now, and there are some activities that you can work on from the LMS. On the LMS, you will have a study guide from whatever I'm saying that you can read in detail. And of course, you have a video of the entire slides that you can look at. And there are some activities along with a recommended reading list. And there are very interesting English books that come up, you know, that you can read depending on your level. All right, so this is not to confuse you, but you know, you need to have an understanding of these tenses. If you're having the flow, if you're speaking the way you're speaking, then you don't have to worry about it, unless you are doubtful that you might be making incorrect grammatical error or a sentence with incorrect grammar. All right, your writing journal. We talked about journalistic writing, how you need to have your writing journal all the time next to you. Like this is my writing journal for now, but this is one of the many writing journals that I have. You can write it the way you want, okay? And then this should be a reference. The thicker the journal, the better it is. What would you write in it? Look at this issue. It's versus its. I'm sure you all understand the meaning of this. Whenever there is an apostrophe, remember it would be possessive, okay? When you're giving an apostrophe, it's possessive, okay? It possesses. So these are the ways of learning the grammar, but if you can understand what its and its is, IT with an apostrophe, then you don't have to worry about it. You can go ahead. All right, there's an example here. I'm sure you'll find this in your study guide as well. So these are the things you can clarify on your in writing and keep it handy whenever you need to. But for a person who has been speaking English for some time, for a person who's living in an English-speaking country, I'm sure this is out of the way. All right, let's listen to this.
Jacob was preparing to write an important paper for one of his partners. He worked hard on it, and after he was done, he asked his colleague to review the text after he had run spell check. Upon close inspection, the colleague found some errors and discussed them with Jacob. One was spelling. Although spell check caught most of the errors, it missed many that had to do with context, such as its and its. Some of his sentences had verb tense errors and such that were not picked up by spell check. After he had checked the document over well, the colleague made some cheat sheets for Jacob to help him remember the rules he neglected to address. Jacob was able to improve after that.
All right. Now, if you're not using the spell checker, if you're not using the synonym on your word processing application, then you are missing a lot. Okay, this was a phenomenal, improvement in word processing when Word 2.0 or Word for Windows, as they called it back then, many years ago, introduced the spell checker and the thesaurus. So, before you get to improving your English skills, if you have to do a business or if you have to do any writing, start with Word. Okay, don't compose the message. Write on your email application or your internet application, extranet. But if you have the time, process it, on a Word application and do the simple work, groundwork, including spell checking, thesaurus, and whatever you can, the commas. Of course, the Word for Windows, the Microsoft or the computer is a dumb machine. There's only so much it will tell you. And sometimes it will correct your, incorrect statement. Sometimes it may even, falsify or, advise against your correct statement. So you have to have the language, but basic stuff, especially the spell checker is something, too silly to ignore and move on with your word processing. So that was the importance of using your applications. There are some review questions. I think you can find it in your study guide as well, but your post-assessment questionnaire that you'll be taking after you log into your LMS will come out of these review questions. We'll just do one or two maybe. Which of the following statement is true? There are acceptable spelling variations in different kinds of English. If you look at number C, now once again, it's the area of English that you pick on, but this is not very important. For example, if you are using the American English, there are words that are spelled differently as opposed to British English. Realize with a Z and with an S, okay? Color is spelled C-O-L-O-U-R in British English, but in American English, it's C-O-L-O-R. And same is the case with check, C-H-E-C-K in American and C-H-E-Q-U-E in British, okay? So you decide which makes sense, you know, which is good. But it's okay to write it both ways. It's very minor. All right. Module 3, constructing sentences. I'm gonna move a little bit fast because we only have like maybe 5 minutes for questions. All right, so with the words, I gave a we just looked at 1 or 2 examples of the word, but let's look at constructing sentences. So the next step, you know, in your writing improvisation is to worry about sentences. This is what will have your paper or your writing sample, you know, stood out. So we'll look at the parts of sentences, punctuations, and the kinds of sentences. Parts of a sentence. The committee recommends a full inquiry over this matter. So here we're going to talk about a sentence having a subject and predicate. So if you all are not familiar with this, you have to know that every sentence has, you know, cannot end with a subject and a predicate. The subject is usually the beginning, the first part of the subject of the sentence, and predicate is what it talks about what the sentence is doing. So this is an example. Here's the sentence. The first part is the subject. Second part is the predicate. Punctuations. It's very important to use it. Okay. This is period, a full stop, where you end a sentence. This is for an interrogative sentence. This is for an exclamatory sentence. This is a comma, colon. This is a semicolon. This you can call it an inverted or a quote, okay? When you hear speakers, you know, quoting somebody else, they do quote, okay? And then they forget to say unquote. When you start talking, you're not quoting anybody. When you're quoting somebody as to what, you know, the president of Tanzania has said, and before you do that, you'd have to say quote, say the sentence, and unquote. This is used properly in writing. However, it's usually ignored when you're speaking. So these are the important punctuation. The semicolon is my favorite here, okay? Because it has its own value. When you have a sentence which is not complete in its meaning, then you can start another sentence with a semicolon and complete the purpose of the sentence. Whereas if you put a period, then it disconnects your first sentence with the other sentence. Which means that every sentence should have a purposeful action. Okay, purpose is very important in English writing. So anything that you do when it comes to business writing would have to be purposeful. You know, there's a very famous topic called purposeful action. So try to use all these punctuations in your paragraph, and especially the semicolon, and take a look at why or where it's used. Types of sentences: declarative, interrogative, imperative, exclamatory. So your paragraph not necessarily should have all these types of sentences, but it's good to know that what a declarative sentence is, what an interrogative sentence is, what an imperative sentence is, exclamatory sentence. You may not have an exclamatory sentence every time that you write a paragraph, or write. It's only used when there is a display of emotions. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to have this, but this is just so you know. Let's take a look at these videos.
Carter was trying to write a letter to a colleague expressing his gratitude for a job well done, but couldn't find the words to express himself. He knew what he wanted to say, but his sentences didn't seem to flow correctly. He decided to break down his sentences into simpler parts so he could determine what was the matter. When he did that, he found he could make them more interesting and smooth by adding punctuation. His sentences could even cause the reader to use inflections in their own voice when reading. Now he has a top-notch letter that his colleague is sure to love.
All right. So it talks a bit about the exclamatory, exclamation, emotions, but it doesn't necessarily have to be always in the paragraph. The most common sentence that we have is the declarative sentence, okay, where these sentences are saying or making a statement. Okay, this is the type. And when it comes to business writing, we'll look at it as we move on. In what status your sentences would be, first person or the second person. Present perfect or future perfect tense. All right. I think we're about out of time. You
Yes,
have. I
we
can
got
hear you.
only, yes. So we got only 5 more minutes before we start our question and answer section.
Okay.
Or, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
It's almost 6:15 now. Here. So we
Yes.
need 15 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. I'm not doing the questions. So I think we can stop here because it may have been a lot, but we have still a lot to do. We usually have about 10 to 12, 10 to 11 modules, and we're only in the third now. So I'm gonna stop here, okay, since this is our first day of the series. And I guess we can dedicate some time for question and answers now, and whatever is left, feel free to send it our way. We'll look at it. And I have myself and Mr. Saeed for the technical aspect. So I'm open for questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shah Saab, for such a wonderful session.
Sure.
And we will be taking questions now. So our first question is from Imran Khan. So the question is, Dear Sir, how to speak and write English language without grammatical mistakes?
Okay. It depends on your level. You cannot speak or write English, with grammatical mistakes. So you have to get a grip on grammar. There are two ways of improving your grammar. One is by getting a grammar book and reading it, okay? But it might confuse you if you already know how to speak English. The second is to, have somebody listen to your English and see if there are any grammatical errors, okay? And then you have to, if you are making a lot of grammatical mistakes in sentences to the point that people can feel, are people judging you as, a poor English speaker, then you really have to work hard and do a lot of reading, okay? Reading comes first, and then a lot of listening, videos, okay, or movies, whatever you can English. And then when I say drop everything, you have to really come out of this dilemma. This is a very, very tough spot you're in, where you're speaking English with grammatical errors. When it comes to writing, it comes later. You can fix that, but speaking is something that you have to work on. So you have to drop everything, start reading, start listening, and start talking in English all the time, okay? And then all the time, all the way. This is how you would do. And then this is what is going to help you, okay? You can read a grammar book and see if that helps. Get a good grammar book and see how it helps. But if you can get a grip on grammar, then nobody will speak better grammatical English, better English than you with proper grammar. But there might be a tough way to do it, okay? Next question.
Yeah. So which accent is better, the UK or the US one?
Well, Hollywood is in demand, right? So that will tell us that the more fashionable, in the sense, more valuable at your workplace is the American accent from my standpoint. But if you happen to go and live in the United Kingdoms, then you are better off learning that accent. But both have equal regard in the world. Okay, it's just that the American accent is growing and it's more in style, and it's more entertaining. So this is how you would look at. But if you happen to live in the UK, you should work on that. But if you happen to put your children into the school, you'd have to decide whether it's English school, American school, or the British school. but both have respect in parts of the world. In the Middle East, the British accent is more common, okay, although American is more valuable. But then in Europe, it's the British accent. But there are English speakers who have an Italian accent, who have a Czech accent, who have a German accent, okay? They all are the same. But for you, if you're in India, I would say stick to American accent, okay? That's more valuable to you now from a business standpoint. Next.
Yes. So we have a participant who has this concern that her name is Samreen Bano Kazi. Her question is, Assalamu alaikum, sir. I have improved my English by watching MasterChef American series somewhat. But problem with me is that I can write and think in English, but when it comes to one-to-one communication with person, I'm not able to find words. I'm not able to communicate much due to fear also. I have so many thoughts due to poor English communication. I can't basically. I am from Urdu medium. Kindly help. Jazakallah khair.
Okay. Well, yeah. See, I talked about your question was already answered in the early slides. I said this is a psychological issue, not a linguistic. Okay. And then if you look at the slide, it might be even in the manual, that it's the fear. Okay. So you have to come out of this fear. And this fear relates to stress. So you have to manage stress, come out of the fear, and talk as much as possible. Okay. You are from a background where you would treat English as an ESL. However, you have to work on it, and it's possible. There are many times, people work hard and then they are able to grasp an entirely new language. But this is not a new language. You already talk, you know how to write. I don't know how much MasterChef is going to help you, but watch something relating to English videos. There are a lot of English videos that talk about, how to learn proper English. And then watching movies would help. And then once again, I would end it with the same statement: drop everything and just stick to it. Speak English all the time, even at home. Okay. It might look difficult, but that's what you have to do, and you'll get it. All right, next question.
Yes. So next question is from Fahmida Khizr. Using prepositions in place is a tricky part. Would be appreciable if know how to fix it?
Well, it's just by practice, and you can find a lot of topics on prepositions on the internet. Okay. In fact, there are some handouts, like one-page sheets, where it will talk about, how to connect sentences, how to begin sentence. So keep that handy, and that will help you. Okay. Business writing is by practice. Okay. And then it is best learned by writing papers on topics. So if you want to improvise on that, if you have the time, the best way is either take a course in English language, okay, or to read a book and summarize it. Okay. So if you can write a summary of a book, that would be very valuable for you to retain, refresh it in the future, and also improve on your skills. So writing a summary is a very special talent. Not everyone can do it. And summary is not just copying and making it a short form, but using your own thoughts. Like the other person has said, they are able to think and write, but they're not able to think and speak. So you start out with writing, and then it all takes practice. But you are there because you're already having difficulty with prepositions, okay? And we will cover different writing aspects tomorrow. So that might give you some tips, but it's all by practice. And one thing I can tell you is once you read a book, try to summarize it, or a chapter, try to summarize it in a short form with your own thoughts and getting those, words in there.
Okay. Thank you, Shah.
That's it. Next.
Next question is from Mohammed Shah Siddiqui. He says, okay. Dear sir, is it good to use slang words during formal communication with client while having a business meeting?
Some words are vulgar, especially when you're using a slang, okay? So you have to avoid it. But if you're speaking to an American, he would be okay with your slang because he's used to it. Okay, but if you're using the language in India, okay, then it's advisable not to use the slang because some of the words in slang are very vulgar. But that's okay. Okay, you can speak to the CEO in an American firm, okay, because the culture is different. They are used to that. But some words are difficult, and I wouldn't use the slang unless you're speaking to a person from that area or from that uh, land of the language. So if you're in the United States, use as much slangs as you can, okay? But if you're in India and you can't say this, can you hang out for a second, or can we hang out? That might be difficult. And then you cannot say that, a lot of words are different. So you don't want to use those words, in your workplace. It's okay to use proper colloquial English. Slang is just to learn the language and to get that accent and to get that near native ability to speak. But if you're seeking a position in an American firm, then you need to have these slangs, especially if your interviewer is an American. But if you're looking at an Indian firm, it might be disrespectful or might not be regarded as the best practice in English. All right, next one.
Yeah, so many of the attendees, they have this question: can you please recommend some books for reading so that they can enhance in their communication?
Yeah, sure. I have books that I can forward, but reading any book is okay. If you're looking at English, improvements, then there are a lot of books in English that you can read. But if you're just looking at improving business conversation, depending on where you are, then you have to read business, literature. More than the books for business English and business conversation, magazines like The Economist would help. The HBR, the Harvard Business Review would help. Okay, anything relating to business, especially from the UK or the US, would be very resourceful. They put in a lot of effort, and the people who compose and who author these articles are experts in English. Okay, so you would really appreciate their work by reading. For example, the New York Times, if you can read the New York Times, I think it's a free subscription, just the area that you want, not the whole, it's a big, then you would be reading the best and the best. So the books are 10 years from behind. Or these articles, magazines, and newspapers are the best. So try to spend at least like 2 hours reading every day for all of you. You will get to the level that you need, okay? And read it online, read it, physically, live or whatever you can. But try to spend at least 2 hours reading. And after you do it for a number of years, then you can imagine where you would be, okay? So the best example is Harvard Business Review, New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. Okay, the Wall Street Journal, I forgot to say, that is also a great, resource. I used to say, if you could read the Wall Street Journal for 5 years, it's equivalent to getting a bachelor's degree in business, or 3 years. 5 years would be master's. So that's how important it is, reading this. So I forgot to mention, but start with Wall Street Journal for business, knowledge and business speaking skills. All right, next question.
All right. So the next question is how to come out of fear when I need to communicate one-on-one. I don't have words to reply it immediately. For public speaking, how to overcome my fear from the audience and how to gain attention.
Well, there are two things. First is the fear that you need to come out of one-on-one. So it's just by practice, okay? In the first slide, I talked about how, it is a psychological impact, okay? Not a linguistic impact. So you can do well if you don't have the fear. So to come out of the fear, you have to be stress-free. So what you do now is drop everything. I repeat, drop everything and start speaking English, no matter what. Any language that you want to learn, you would have to think that, it's only when I speak, and don't worry about what the other person will think, of how he will make fun of you or how he will think. But you have to understand you're learning a new language. You already have your own language. You're learning a new language. So you have to drop everything and speak. That's the only way you come out of fear. For public speaking, you have to practice, okay? For public speaking, it's not that you just have to face the camera, but you have to do your homework and practice. So you have to have your speeches written down, learned, okay, unlearned, not memorized, but learned and then speak. So this is how you will come out. But that's the last stage. Public speaking with the last. Right now, you need to come out of the fear and not have to worry about having the flow or the fluency one-on-one, okay? So drop everything and start speaking English and worry not about what the other person will think. And not just to the person when you are in business, but you have to do it all the time, okay? So why would you want to take 10 years to learn English when you can do it in 2 years? For that, you drop everything and speak English at home, okay? So you can speak English even to your pet. I hope that's clear. Next.
Yeah. Thank you, Shah Saab. Due to time constraint, we will be ending our Q&A session right now.
Okay.
So I just want to make a few announcements, like we will be having 2 sessions every week for 7 weeks.
Yes.
We got 7 topics to be covered. Every topic will take 2 sessions. Hence,
Yes.
every week we will be covering 1 topic in 2 sessions. So same time, 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Indian time, every Monday and Wednesday.
Yes.
I will also invite Saeed Bhai to take over and speak about LMS for a few minutes. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Humaira, for that. And thank you so much, Shah Saab, for that wonderful and amazing session. And I hope that, this is a very, very great start for our phase 2. And we look forward to hear from you, in the upcoming sessions too. We have just, shared the LMS, link with you. Okay, meaning for the users who want to sign up. So whatever, Shah Saab has just explained today, okay, so we have put that, in the form of reading material in the learning management system. And that link has already been shared with you in the chat box. Okay, so I'll quickly, share the screen and then show you how exactly that needs to be done. Okay,
That will be wonderful.
yeah, so the way we are going to do is, this is the link that has been given to you, ampskills.swifthcm.com/user sign up. Okay, so once you click on this link, okay, you would be getting the sign up page. So it's a pretty straightforward free sign up. So you can just, give some name over here. Please make sure that you're giving a proper name, okay, because that is the name that will go on your certificate too. Okay, and email is required. Email is required because we will use this email for your sign up as well. Okay, so when you sign up, you would be using this email, and then give any password of your choice. And once you confirm the password, and when you click on sign up, so the system would redirect to your dashboard, and this is how the dashboard would actually look like. And every week, whenever we are done with the topic, we would be uploading the topic over here. So right now the business writing module is uploaded here. So you can just click on when you see this the course name here, you can get started by clicking on begin. So when you click on begin, okay, so all the modules under it would in fact come like this. So there's a learning path. So there's a brief introduction about what is this course all about and how many modules are there in this. And then there is an e-learning course associated with this. So when you click on this e-learning course, okay, so this is that e-learning course that comes up. All basically the presentation, whatever Shah Saab has just shown today, this is in the form of an e-learning material. Okay, so this is for you to go through in detail. So it's a very detailed presentation. And I just wanted to add something over here, that the value of this course, okay, in the market, okay, is not less than uh, a good number of dollars. Okay, so please make sure that this is a very golden opportunity for you to to understand this and then enhance your skills as well. So you can click on start and then get started. Now the critical portion of this is, every topic will have an assessment. So we have configured 10 questions. Okay, so you're supposed to answer those 10 questions, and you can retake this assessment as many number of times as possible. So please make sure that for your certificate, okay, which will be given at the end of all the sessions of the webinars. Once all the topics are over, these assessments would be considered. Okay, these assessment marks would be considered, based on which you would be getting your certificate. Okay, so there is an assessment within the e-learning course as well, but please make sure that you are taking the assessment, okay, which is present here in the learning path, what I just showed you right now. So these are the few different things I wanted to show you. So please make sure that you are just going through all the courses. And one last thing before I end, that every topic we have given a time limit of 1 week. So within 1 week you have to complete the course, and then you have to take the assessment as well. Okay, so after 1 week you will not be able to take the assessment or the course again. So it'll get expired. And once this topic is over, we will upload the new topic, and you can use the same login again to just you can continue with the other courses as well. Okay, so please make sure that you're giving a proper name as well. Thank you. If you have any questions, okay, so you can ask. I'll be there available for all the sessions. So if you have any technical questions related to to LMS, you can always ping me in the chat box, and I'll be able to answer those queries. Thank you. All right, Humera, I'm done.
Yeah, thank you, Said Bhai. Humaira, are you still there?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Said Saab, for explaining about the LMS. Thank you so much, Mr. Shah Siddiqui Saab, for such a wonderful and informative session today. To all the attendees, it was really fantastic to have you all on board for today's AMP Web Talk. AMP organizes these sessions by highly qualified professionals and experts in their respective fields to share their learning and viewpoints to guide not only youth, but everyone with their own life experiences. We request you all to keep coming for these sessions. Next session we will be having on Monday at 7:30 p.m. For that, I'll be sending you an email to register. So keep yourself updated through our website www.ampindia.org/pastwebtalks. Um, hello.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear Humaira.
Okay. So do you have anything to add?
No, I think we are good. Thank you so much, Shah Saab. Thank you so much, Said Bhai. It was really wonderful. And I would suggest to all the attendees, take the LMS system very seriously. Sign up. That is must if you want to get certified after finishing this session. So that is going to be very worth. And AMP is organizing this by bringing two of our partners like Shah Saab from the Reed Academy, as well as Swift from the Said Bhai. So we are technically, all the partners are paying for you to organize this one, but we are offering you for free just to benefit the society. So take advantage of it. Wherever you are, if you are working in a company, if you are self-employed, these certifications are going to be really, really useful, because every company, they even organize soft skill training within the company from the corporate trainers, and they really pay heavy amount for it. So take advantage of it. That is the only suggestion I have. And then use LMS, give your assessment, pass the exams, whatever questions you have. And once you successfully complete it, you'll be eligible to download your certificate, and you are done. So the session will continue every Monday and Wednesday at the same time, 7:30 to 9 p.m. India time. And it is going to continue for next 14 days. I mean, next 14 sessions. So every Monday and Wednesday for 7 weeks. So that's all, Humaira. I believe we can conclude. Shah Saab, do you like to say a few words, and then we can conclude?
Thank you, Shincha Bhai. Thank you, everyone. I guess that's about it. See if you can get to reading the manual, okay, and listening to the videos, because there's a lot, and I don't know how much we can cover by tomorrow. But like I said, this is a lifelong journey, and we will wish you the best and help you as much as we can. So I guess that's about it. I'll see you guys on Wednesday, same time. Thank you all. Bye now.
Thank you, Shahzab. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I'm Humaira Kabir signing off now. Thank you, everyone.